All right, I am really sorry about that for anyone who was waiting. I hope that you're going to be able to pop back on. I apologize for technical difficulties. Hi, Henry. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for popping back on. I hope that Sam Smith was amazing last night. I'm so jealous. So jealous. And of course, I have my coffee to keep me perfect. We're going to just wait a second to see if anybody else pops on. If they don't, then that's totally fine. I'm so jealous. Sounds wonderful. Cannot wait till the day. I know I will see him live someday. We're going to talk about meditation today. We're going to talk about some of the basics. You know, for me personally, it was a really a tough one because I just thought I was terrible at it. So we're going to spend some time discussing that. I'm going to wait just a minute to see if anybody else pops on. But in the meantime, I'll let you know that I did create sacred space in here. Jamie helped me create sacred space. He's going to be, I think, hopefully popping on in the next room, or maybe even popping in if I want to ask him a couple of questions throughout this process. So he's just right out there, and we're just going to discuss meditation. It is honestly probably one of the most important things that I would say literally every esoteric wisdom has discussed it in some way. There's tons of scientific basis for it now. Almost everybody that I would say most people really at this point have a good idea, a good understanding that scientifically it is really good for us as well. We're going to go into some of those benefits, but more importantly, how to put it into practice in our lives so that we don't feel quite so much like it is practice. So it feels like it is just daily life. Oh, perfect. What a perfect day for us to talk about it. And actually, and at the end of this, I think that I'm going to do a guided visualization that would be really, really helpful to bring you some peace and calm. But I am going to pop off the video and I'm going to do it again as a live video so that that's just a separate video of just the visualization at the end. That way you can go back and listen to just the visualization without having to listen to the entire recording again. So we'll do that at the end. And like I say, I'm just going to wait a second longer to see if anybody else happens to pop on. And if not, it's just the two of us today, which is a-okay with me, sister. Okay. So as usual, you don't need anything like crystals or candles or anything like that to create sacred space or to do meditation. Those are things that create a little bit of an added benefit, and part of the reason why is because any single time that you take something and add intention to it, anytime that you're adding something to the ritual or adding gravity to your process, really what you're doing is just showing that you care a little bit more. You're adding there is an actual light that you're adding to the situation. You're creating more gravity. Oh, perfect. Hi, T. I'm really excited to have you both on here. So darn it, I forgot what I was saying. Remind me what my train of thought was. Oh, the you don't need anything in the room, and I try to go over that actually in every single video, so you'd think that I would be you'd think I would remember, but for sacred space, you really only need you. You only need your heart. You only need your intentions. But one of the benefits of adding all of these other like whatever you feel close to is mostly just that you create an added gravity to the situation. Literally, you're adding love and light to the situation, and those things have a certain level of weight. Anytime you add an additional level of weight to something, you are literally creating gravity for it. So that in these situations is one of the benefits. With fire, with flames of any sort, part of the reason why those are beneficial, they're really sacredly symbolic of transmutation, of, you know, it's the concept of the rising of the phoenix, that, you know, you really kind of release that which is holding you back. They're really, really, really effective for releasing certain kinds of darkness. Before we get into the meditation, I'll just tell you one of the things that we've done many, many times is we just will write and then we burn whatever those feelings or whatever that experience is in the fire. And sometimes it's a bad experience you're trying to get rid of, or sometimes it might be like, you know, we've had my son before write a letter to my grandfather who had passed away before he was born, but just so that he would feel like he was creating a bond with my grandfather, even though he's passed on. So fire is really, really helpful for creating this, not only a transmutative experience, but also it's kind of a bridge between dimensions sometimes. Crystals have a sacred resonance that they give off because of the crystalline structure is sacred geometry that's within them, and every single one of them have a slightly different crystalline structure. When and those have a resonance that they give off. I'm not sure why music stopped. Started it again. So the crystals have a sacred resonance, and really everything in your home, everything around you gives off a resonance of some sort. So it's nice to make sure that some of the things that are around you that are giving off resonance anyway, that you choose that some of those things be really pretty, beautiful resonances. So, you know, this seems like a good time to just kind of get right into, I don't know why it keeps trying to stop, so we may have to just let the music go to get into meditation. Because of the fact that I was just discussing that everything around us gives off a resonance, and that's very true even of things that are just sitting there. Okay, let alone if you're watching the news or listening to music or having a conversation with your friends or overhearing a conversation at the grocery store or while you're at lunch or whatever. You are constantly taking in just magnificent amounts of information, and the vast majority of that information is being processed by your unconscious mind instead of your conscious one. So our conscious minds, for the most part, are spending their time focusing on things that we are in the pattern of doing, things that we've created lots and lots of rigid patterns with for most of our lives. Oh, hi, honey. Thank you. No problem. I think that you might have been trying to get into this account. That's why I was kicking off the music. That's funny. So, in any case, we are sacred supercomputers. You guys hear me talk about that a lot. Cosmic pleronic supercomputers that are really far more magnificent than we've been led to believe. We're just barely starting to understand the way that these bodies get coded, and the parts of the DNA that we haven't even really opened up to. And to consider that this isn't possible, not only ignoring the fact that we already know that we're evolutionary beings and we don't really stop evolving, but also we know that we have DNA and parts of ourselves that we really haven't had access to yet, that sometimes it's called junk DNA. It's just not junk DNA. It's just DNA that is in the process of reconfiguring. Okay, so evolutionarily, we're never going to stop growing and evolving. That's really the process. And we happen to have these really magnificent supercomputers in the process to help us with that. And these supercomputers process everything around us all the time, whether we're awake, whether we're asleep. When we're asleep, we are processing just as much with our conscious mind, with our unconscious mind, as when we're awake, if not more, but we're just not doing it with our conscious mind at the same time. In that time period, we're experiencing things astrally, which is a different layer, different dimensional aspect of our bodies. That's a fourth dimensional aspect of our bodies. However, it doesn't change the fact that your supercomputer is still getting coded. Your human super avatar is getting coded. So one of the benefits of meditation, people want to meditate, and it's hard sometimes because we do have these patterns. If you're anything like me, my brain gets stuck in a loop. Jamie, I'm sure will acknowledge this. My brain gets stuck in a loop, and I start thinking about something, and I just can't stop thinking about that while I'm also trying to process a bunch of other things at the same time. So when it comes to meditating, if I just want to like turn my mind off and go to Om space, I can do that more effectively now, but there's no way. A couple years ago, there was no way. I just kind of giggled at the idea of even being able to do that. Now, and even now, that's not what I do with what I would consider the vast majority of my meditation. Maybe what looks like meditation to other people looks like that a lot, but I want to discuss a lot of different kinds of meditation and really what the benefits are, so that you can maybe be fluid about what your belief system is on meditation. So if you already have a set and structured idea of what meditation is, what meditation should look like, what it shouldn't look like, and you don't really want to change that belief or even be fluid with it at all, then this is probably not the best video for you. You already know what you're doing. But if you're willing to be at least fluid with what your belief system is about meditation, then I think you'll find that you probably even meditate more than you think you do. And certainly you'll find it easier to find ways to meditate than at least I used to think it was. So we'll put it that way. Now, first we're going to talk about some of the benefits. With your supercomputer, your ultimate goal in life is to find balance within this avatar, okay? And in that avatar, when you find balance in your physical mechanism, that's called having like a balanced pH, a balanced body within your health. And if someone says that you're healthy, you're balanced, that usually means that you're free of sickness, you're running pretty well for whatever your age, or you're in good health, basically, right? If your body is well balanced. Well, if your chakra system, which is a different part of our body, is well balanced, if that's in balance, then we come into a different place of empowerment with our, that's essentially saying that the strongest aspects that we would consider the strengths of the masculine and feminines of each one of these chakras have come into a state of balance, and that is ultimately enlightenment. So that is certainly a kind of balance that we're trying to achieve. So whether you're looking for like an esoteric explanation or a more scientific, more based on just like a healthy body kind of explanation, balance is something that we all know is something that we're trying to achieve. And ultimately that is the goal of meditation. The goal of meditation is to alternate, is to either just come into a place of being in the present. Well, always that's part of it, which is really, really hard for the conscious mind to do, because like I said, we're patterned beings. So most of our day, almost all day, every day, for most people who are consciously thinking, but they're not necessarily spiritually awake, they are just in patterns, and they go in these same patterns all the time. And when those patterns get challenged, we'll say, there's usually a resistance that's met. So many people who know me, certainly anyone who's known me for very long, has heard me talk about pattern interruption. And I say that pattern interruption is sacred. Well, pattern interruption is sacred because what it's doing is stopping you from those normal patterns that, everyone says, I want to change my life. I want to love myself more. I want to lose weight. I want to, whatever it may be. But it does require action. It requires putting those things into play. And sometimes that action is just sitting quietly and being willing to actually be present in a moment. That action is stopping your brain. It's pattern interruption. Now, it might not seem like action because you're sitting still, but it is an action in essence, because what you're doing is consciously making a choice to change the patterns that are holding you in the same place that you're already in. The place that you're in right now that you know that you want to either grow from, expand from, outright run from, I don't care what it is, whatever your situation is. If you're depressed, if you're just wanting to like expand in whatever other way, whatever it may be, you know that where you're at right in this moment is not the exact place that you're trying to seek growth, and you're trying to move forward. And if you're trying to move forward, it requires a willingness to pattern interrupt from the exact way you're doing things right now. So pattern interruption is sacred, and meditation is a way of incorporating pattern interruption into your life. There's many different ways to do this. So people talk about like really structured meditation, which is where you're going to be sitting in a really solid, or not necessarily solid, but really specific position, or really like try to stay still the entire time. You might focus on specific measured breaths, breathing 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 7 seconds in, 7 seconds out, doing something like that, a little bit more rigid, which there's definitely a time and a place for. But sometimes meditation is just walking outside and counting your steps. Walking on a beach, which I haven't done in such a long time, but walking on a beach and really feeling every step, feeling the the sand squishing between your toes, getting in touch with every single sense. So trying to smell the salt on the wind, or listen to all the different kinds of wildlife you can hear, or listen to the waves as they lap. Um, those are actually all forms of meditation, not just because you're getting in the moment, but because you're utilizing more than one sense at a time. And utilizing more than one sense at a time is kind of like the idea of activating and utilizing two different chakras at one time. You're going to create a synthesis that's really going to help you to balance and create a relationship between different parts of your body. Well, the most important parts of your body, I shouldn't say the most important parts of your body, but really maybe the most important parts of your body to do this with is the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain, because those are the parts of our brain that represent our divine masculine and our divine feminine aspects. So the left side of your brain, keep in mind, when we're talking about a divine feminine and a divine masculine, we're not discussing like the way that someone's body is born with certain gender specific body parts. We are talking about energetic qualities. There's energetic qualities that are considered energetically divine masculine, and energetic qualities that are considered energetically divine feminine. And those qualities are governed by different aspects of our brains. They're, even each part of your brain is, or not brain, your eyeballs are even wired to the different parts of your brain. But the left side of your brain is considered, logical, analytical, the divine masculine aspects of your body. It does control the right half of your body, but it is the left brain. And the right side of your brain is more artsy and creative. It's considered the divine feminine aspect, and it controls the left parts of your body. So ultimately, really, any kind of meditation that you're going to do is in some way, shape, or form designed to bring those two parts of your brain into balance with one another. So, for example, we'll even talk about yoga. Yoga is a great example of meditation. All 8 legs, or the Eightfold Path, all of those incorporate some aspect of meditation, whether you're doing asanas, which are the poses, or whether you are doing pranayama, which is just breath work, no matter what you're doing, you're utilizing some form of meditation in this technique. But even the asanas, the poses in yoga, are always a back and forth, or at least to my knowledge, almost, I'd say really every class I've ever done, including getting certified and teaching classes, is a convex and concave dance, back and forth. You're doing a convex concave dance, which is masculine, feminine, while you're balancing that or trying to synchronize that with breath work. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And as you're doing this and synchronizing these different things, the convex and concave motion of the yoga, that's going back and forth between your left and right side. The breath work, every time you're breathing like that, especially with intention, with pure intention, you're going back and forth between the left side of your brain. That's so even pranayama, which is just sitting there, you're still going to be doing this in some way, shape, or form. There's some really, really great mindful exercises that you can do that are designed to access and go back and forth between both sides of the brain. One that Jamie and I believe I know that we read a book that talked about this, but I also think that it may have mentioned it in one of David Wilcock's episodes. And he's a great channeler. He's a great resource if you're looking for another great resource for excellent esoteric knowledge. But one of the tools that you can use is if you close your eyes and you think. We'll start with the number 3. You can start with a much higher number if you want to, but if you think about and visualize the number 3 times, and say the number 3 times, and then do the same thing with 2 and 1. So we're going to be visualizing it while we also count down and say them out loud. So 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. Now, You can do that, obviously, like I said, with lots more numbers, or you can just repeat 3, 2, 1 over and over again. But part of the reason why that's so brain balancing is because as you're saying it out loud and counting downwards, that's a very divine, masculine, analytical thing to do. That is mathematically structured mind. But if you're visualizing it while you're also saying it, what you're doing is creative at the exact same time. You're utilizing the artistry of the right side of the brain to create a visualization in your mind at the same time as you're saying it. So at the same time, you're focusing on utilizing both the left and the right side of your brain simultaneously. So that's another really easy, really simple. You can do that when you're walking down the street. These are really good meditative techniques that don't have to be done in a state of, sitting on a meditation pillow or sitting in lotus position or even laying in your bed. You can just be walking down the street. I know that I've posted a rainbow light visualization, which is one of my very favorites. Of almost anyone who knows me knows that rainbows are like one of my favorite things. The visualization I'm going to do at the end of this is one of Jamie's favorites, is utilizing golden light instead of rainbow light. But we utilize both of these often, and doing those guided kinds of visualizations are really helpful. For me, one of the most effective tools I think I've used in the last couple of years, as far as like just waking in a better mood and really feeling like I'm taking my own personal coding and my own meditative practices into my own hands, which is important, is that I fall asleep listening to meditation. Jamie and I do most of the time, sometimes different things at different times. Good, thanks, Anne. I appreciate that. Sometimes we fall asleep listening to different things. Sometimes we listen to the same thing. Sometimes we're just listening to frequencies, which are all about resonance. Get into that a little bit more actually. But as far as the meditations, the guided meditations, they are really so extremely effective at coding us with love and light. Make sure that you're being at least somewhat careful about who you're choosing. I know that some of the ones that I just absolutely have loved, Joe Tracy, Michael Seeley, we use. Aluna Ash doesn't do a ton of meditations, but when she does do meditations, they're so wonderful. They're really helpful. I don't know, Jamie, maybe want to throw a couple extra ones on there as far as guided. Oh, Steve Nobel. That's one we found recently. He's been really, really wonderful. There's a lot of just breath work types of techniques that you can do to bring up the Kundalini energy or the light energy or the chi prana from the earth, and bring it up through your body or bring it up through your spine so that you can help to cleanse out your chakras. And the process of doing that is basically to recognize that your intention drives the light. So if you focus on breathing in light and breathing out whatever density is within your system, and breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth, that again is going to activate the left and the right side of the brain back and forth. That's part of the reason why you always hear, you may always hear, yogis or meditative masters or things talking about breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. That is a process of activating the left and the right brain back and forth in alternating patterns as well. Oh yeah, Power Thoughts Meditation Club is a good one too. Thanks, hun. Yeah, so the breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, in addition to the fact that that's activating back and forth your left and right side of your brains, you're also, for the purposes of visualization, think about the benefit of breathing in light and breathing out your density. You are a master of your own energy field. You're a master of your own, you are your own source of creating that light within. And so if you use with your own power the ability to bring in light and send out darkness, essentially over time, as you do that with intention and you develop your neural pathway for that process, you become very, very natural at dispelling darkness from your body, or dispelling density from your body. It's one of those things that becomes really a lot more natural, instead of feeling like you constantly have to hold stuff in for a while and then realize that something's really bothering you and then get it out. It just kind of becomes a more effectively flowing process. So that's Again, guided visualizations are a really effective one. I'll do one at the end of this. I would not consider myself anywhere near as effective as some of the masters at this. Hypnosis is a really, really effective tool as well, whether you're going to go and get hypnosis or whether you're going to do some guided hypnosis. Those are great things to fall asleep with. And like I said, that is, as far as like taking your own sovereignty, as far as gaining control over your own self, your own life, your own feelings, your own force field, which is a really important thing to do in your spiritual growth process. Um, Taking meditation or taking your own coding, I shouldn't say taking meditation, but taking your own coding into your hands is really, 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 really important. Knowing that you're being coded all the time and making a conscious choice to choose the coding that you're getting and that it's not fear based. I don't want to sit and listen to news all day and just hear this whole, I'm pretty well aware of like the big stuff that's going on, but I do not like ever to listen to things that are just going to, that are designed to create fear. I listen to things that are designed to create a feeling of light, a feeling of love, a feeling of a high vibration. And that's because I've consciously chose to take my own force field into my own hands. And that's why, you know, there may be a lot of stressful things that are going on even right now, or that may go on sometimes. But my internal place of happiness is a completely different level of happiness than I ever even knew possible. It almost seems silly considering, you know, when outside things happen and they're stressful, it almost seems silly or wrong how like okay I am inside, considering that there's all this other stressful stuff that's going on outwardly. Um, and that's because there's a feeling of internal balance, and certainly a level of understanding that, you know, there's a divine orchestration to everything. I know that's not something that every single person who watches this is going to buy into or believe or whatever you want to say. But to me, it's so obvious in my life that there's divine orchestration, even when things are going wrong, that it's hard for me to it's hard for me not to feel a sense of peace inside, even when I know outwardly that intellectually it almost makes no sense to me. So that's what meditation can bring, though. It doesn't make it so that you become unaware of what's going on outside. It doesn't make it so that you don't want to take care of it and get your stuff taken care of. That's obviously a very important thing, but it does make it so that you can take things a little bit more easily in stride and not feel like the whole weight of the world is coming down on you. It's effective to bring some of those techniques into those stressful moments. I told you guys that over time, the rainbow light visualization is something that I started doing really, really quickly. It's not always easy to bring in the moments that are the most stressful, but it's usually pretty easy to step away for a couple of minutes and just do something like that that can just bring you into a place of calm. It's not going to solve your problems, all of your problems for you, but what it's going to do is bring you into a place of clarity so that you can actually solve those problems with a sense of responsiveness instead of reacting. Reacting is a very limbic thing to do. It was a very effective tool in a reptilian mind and an earlier brain, in a less evolved brain. But reactions and responses are not the same thing. And responses are much easier to utilize when, or our responsive skills are much easier to utilize when we have taken some time to consciously choose to balance our brains. Being outside in nature, just being outside in nature, not even doing anything, just sitting there. That is more balancing than anything that you could do. Almost, I shouldn't say anything you could do, but most anything you could do indoors besides just about meditating. Nature in general, not only is the energy out there designed to help balance you, and it's also like, especially if you're walking barefoot and you're allowing your human lightning rod to ground its energy into the planet, but just you're constantly utilizing so many different senses. And most of the time, if you're actually out in nature, it's hard not to be in kind of somewhat of a state of gratitude. So these things are all really effective for the aspect of balancing our brains, balancing our brain chemistry, so that when the chaos comes, which we all know, we still live in a world where chaos is going to come sometimes, but it allows us to take those things with a sense of calm and a little bit more clarity, and to be able to just take them in stride so that we can make decisions that we're not going to think back on later and think, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I made that decision. was a horribly poor decision. It allows you to, and over time, you get really much more quick at making responsive um, replies instead of reactive ones, even if they're quick, responsive replies. All of these things are based on finding a place of balance, and you don't have to meditate the way that some other guru or some other whatever does. That's their way, and for some people, they choose to do it one way every single time, and that is so extremely effective for them, truly. And for some people it's one style, it might not be one exact kind, like one visualization or something, or one different kind of breath work, but it might just be they just like kundalini yoga and that's their way of meditating. For some people it's just listening to music. I would dare anyone to argue with me about how meditative music can be. Now I know that strictly non-resonant, non-harmonic music um, may have its healing effects for some people depending on the environment and whatever the situation is. I wouldn't necessarily call that the most meditative music, because I think there, in order to really be balancing for both sides of the brain, there has to be a certain level of harmonic resonance within the music. But any music that is really truly harmonic is going to be brain balancing. There's a reason why, like, geniuses listen to classical music, because it balances their brains, and it gives you a more effective set of tools to work with within your brain. They're going to function more appropriately and more effectively and more responsively when you take the time and give yourself the love and the light to be willing to learn whatever meditative practices are going to work for you. Again, like I said, nature's obviously a really, really excellent one. The countdown method is one. Breath work, any pranayama. Um, Visualization is really, really effective for most people. It's not for Jamie. He's really, really effective at being able to just guide himself through his own visualization. For me, I'm better at guiding other people through one than I am at guiding myself through one. I'm better at listening to someone else guide me through one, but I don't mind just sometimes listening or being quiet and just getting into breath work. That used to not be something I was very good at. I could not shut my mind down long enough to do that. It's something I love now, but I've had to be willing to go with the flow with my meditative practices. I also had to be willing to just honor the fact that sometimes my meditative practices don't look like this. Sometimes my meditative practices are just making a conscious effort to think back and forth with my brain, to actually think about my steps as I'm taking them, to get conscious about where I'm at in nature, to listen to the birds around me, to walk my feet on grass or on earth, to make a conscious choice to ground my energy into the crystalline body of Mother Gaia. You know, there are so many ways to be able to meditate, that if you get lost in the idea that it has to look a structured way, I can assure you that it's going to take away from the experience for you. But if you can just be willing to go with the flow and know that meditation looks a little different every time, and that sometimes you might get a little more distracted than other times, and not get down on yourself about it at all, over time it not only becomes easier, but you get so much more creative about how you can do it, to where meditation becomes not a daily practice. It doesn't it, it's worthy of practicing, don't worry. Like, go ahead and set aside time or do whatever you've got to do to practice, but understand that over time it becomes something that is so natural. It's not a practice anymore. It's just a part of your day. You may still set aside time to workshop, or to, which is one of the things that we call it, or to meditate, or to do that. But you'll also find yourself throughout the day meditating all the time, and not even realize how you've incorporated so many of these techniques into your life, because what you've done is just taken a little bit of time to study what works for you and honor yourself and your supercomputer enough to know that it's worthy of coding with love and light, and to balance out that inner structure, whether you're thinking about the physical, the scientific benefits behind the brain balancing, or whether you're thinking about the esoteric benefits behind the brain balancing. Either way, there's not a downside to meditating, and there are so many different ways to do it. You really, there's one that works for everyone. I'm 100% positive. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll even help guide you through one. And like I said, right after this, I'm going to stop real quick and I'm going to do a guided visualization. I'm going to start another live video. You guys are welcome to pop on or watch it later. But I'm going to do that one as just a quick guided visualization so that people are welcome to watch it as they fall asleep, or if they just want to have a quick 5 or 10 minute way of winding down. I'm not sure exactly how long it'll be, 5, 10, 15 minutes. Hopefully I'll see you there. Love you guys. And I hope this was helpful. Bye.